Whether you agree with my opinions or not, destroying your ignorance is more important than most things you might think of. If you choose to use ignorance as a way to defend yourself from facts, you know this. So let's start with some basic ideas. What is the matrix? So what is 5G? Now, this is a video I posted, a description from a video I posted in October of 2018. It's very old. This has been around for a while. It's not a new story. 5G, July 2016, FCC frequency range, FR1, below 6 gigahertz. Resonant frequency of water molecules are at 1,147 terahertz. Now that's not what it sounds like. At 1,000 terahertz, at 100 terahertz, and at 47 terahertz, not 2.4 gigahertz like microwave ovens operate at. They don't work the way you think they do. Well, I don't understand how it works. I don't care. It's not a resonant frequency thing. What about the molecules for water? Water molecules and stuff? Well, let's start with oxygen molecules. Let's get that torn down. O2 molecules tested resonant frequencies at 55 terahertz. 2 room temperature oxygen atoms are 121 picometers apart. That equals 2.4 million terahertz. And oxygen covalent bonds break by thermal agitation, not RF. Now, what the hell is that going on with? What's that going on with? What? If the molecules, two atoms, let's just take 2 atoms, a simple model. Let's say it's just 2 oxygen atoms. They have to bond to each other for some freaking compelling reason, because the outside of them has a negative charge. They're not attracted to the positive charge inside. The negative charge on the outside is what does it. But another characteristic of it is that the outside shell, we're imagining this, but the outside average number of electrons on the outside of each atom, if it's not a certain number, will create dead spaces. And what happens is these normally somewhat repelling of each other kind of items in general, which almost always have a negative charge on the outside unless you do something to them. That's called foreshadowing. There will be gaps in them, and if the outside shell would be happier with another electron, or has too many electrons, having them come in contact with even the same atom with the same characteristics can make it to where they can share an electron or juggle an electron back and forth to where the outer shells become more stable chemically, so they're not as reactive as in being able to bond with things other places. O2 molecules are 2 oxygen atoms stuck together. Water molecules are a hydrogen atom thrown into an O2 molecule. Or no, it's 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen. See, it's not the same thing as O2. If a lightning bolt goes through with a ridiculously huge amount of energy involved, and of course it's primarily concerned with being electrons moving, or at least them shifting from point A to point B, this can cause oxygen and hydrogen molecules, H2 and O2, to bind together to where you have 2 hydrogen atoms and one of the oxygen atoms gets jammed into it. Now this is an oversimplification. Now you may have noticed oxygen atoms, which we breathe, can be pretty easily broken up and separated and used to make reactions in us. There's also the same reason that O2 will work when you burn things with fire. There's some energy to act as a catalyst to cause it. Water molecules don't like separating. No matter what your perpetual motion machine believing brother-in-law or uncle thinks, water molecules are a raving, screaming pain in the ass to separate. Oxygen atoms aren't that difficult to pull apart. Not as difficult, but there is some difficulty there. Radio signals have not been shown to be able to do this the way you might think, and again, the frequencies don't match. And I'm going to bring up the actual wavelengths for a few things here real quickly, because contrarian to your unpopular belief systems, people actually test the shit some of you repost on Facebook and find out that you posted something stupid. Oxygen atoms, hemoglobin molecules, and blood cells, which are an actual cell, are all smaller than 5G wavelengths. 300 megahertz is 1 meter, or 1 meter. 3 gigahertz is 10 centimeter. 30 gigahertz is 1 centimeter, and 300 gigahertz is millimeter wavelength, and 3 terahertz is 0.1 millimeter. When someone says millimeter frequency range, it's not literally 1 millimeter. It's bigger. And in case you don't know about this, Oxygen atoms, hemoglobin, and body cells and blood cells are much smaller than 1 millimeter. But I want to believe in sacred chakra maraca resonance frequencies, and it's a sacred frequency and wavelength and oxygen atom diameter is half its O2 diameter at 3 angstroms, or 300 picometers, or 0.03 nanometers. A photon that traveled that distance in order to be resonant would be at I can't pronounce it, or a billionth of a gigahertz, a billion gigahertz for a single neutral oxygen gas molecule or atom. Unless it's electrostatically ionized, biased, some damn compelling force has to be done to it. It has a frequency that is over a billion gigahertz. It's not a terahertz or a gigahertz. It's billions of gigahertz. It's not the frequency it's not the frequency you're talking about. O2, dioxygen, an allotrope of elemental oxygen, is 120 picometer bond length, which is another wavelength. Cryogenic liquid oxygen, that means actually solid oxygen, solidified from gas to a solid. Yeah, 1.8 billion gigahertz, so it's not 5G. Gas state neutral oxygen, vibrational frequency, it's a vibration in free air, is almost the same value. It's 1 billion gigahertz. 1 billion gigahertz. Therefore, it's not 1 gigahertz or 60 gigahertz, it's a billion gigahertz. But I don't like that answer. Shut up. Cryogenic solid oxygen, is actually, well, it's almost the same thing. The other one was cryogenic liquid oxygen. Sorry. None of these states, from extremely cold to neutral temperatures like you're dealing with, are anywhere near down the frequency you'd want to be. And, very importantly, this is really important, it can't be 5G. 5G frequency 1 grouping is 6 gigahertz. 28 gigahertz is the maximum frequency that's in use in North America at the time I did this, and I checked recently, they're allowing for 27 gigahertz instead of 28. And again, the radio signal doesn't destroy the oxygen. The oxygen in the air perturbs or shuts off 5G. It's not bidirectional. Yes, if you turn a crank one way and it does something, and turn a crank the other way, it does the other thing, that's fine. If you grab this one here, it does it backwards. That I understand that. Reciprocal function or whatever. This is not one of them. In the same way that a blob of Play-Doh hitting a steel plate doesn't equally have to damage the steel plate. It's Play-Doh. Radio frequencies are very low power and don't fucking do that to oxygen. The oxygen fucks up the radio signal. See? No? Depending on your political motivation and orientations and biases, you're going to listen or not. That means you're selected for extinction because you're too stupid to walk down the street and not poke your eye out with your own fist. So here we go. The absorption line of oxygen, the lowest frequency is at 40 gigahertz, and the next lowest line, wavelength, is at 135 gigahertz. It's not exactly 66.666 satanic gigahertz. It's 40 gigahertz and 135. Absorption line. That means it kills the signals, so we should avoid using them. But we can use them over short distances because it's negligible. It also has the ability to make it to where they don't get crosstalk beyond a certain distance. That doesn't mean it's damaging the oxygen. That means the oxygen, nature, is fighting the radio signal. Now, that doesn't mean that nature's going to lose. If you believe God made a weak nature because we can beat it with a 1 milliwatt fucking cell phone, you deserve to be laughed at. Hemoglobin absorption line. Actual wavelength. 666 nanometers. It's actually 660. That's 454,230 gigahertz. It's not 60 gigahertz. Absorption line of hemoglobin, other wavelength, at 940 nanometers. Yes, 100,000. Yeah, 318,000 gigahertz. Again, that's not 60 gigahertz because it's not the right number. your vibrational sacred maraca or Shirako frequency for oxygen molecules and hemoglobin and oxygen do not match the ones you claim if you've been reposting this on Facebook. That's it. They don't match. The only thing that comes close to it is an absorption spectrum, which means the gases or molecules or whatever you're talking about have the ability to destroy 5G. Not the other way around. 5G doesn't destroy anything in nature because nature destroys 5G. Just like it's been doing for a very long time since we discovered these radio frequency signals weren't useful beyond a certain length. So they just weren't used very much. But they have to cut down the trees for it. No, that was a video. You saw a video like that, right? Yeah, that was an area that they were trimming the trees. Period, full stop. It had nothing to do with 5G. And they did only a section of them because they do them in a section to trim the trees to force them to form different buds. They trim off the limbs to form buds so the tree acts more like a bush. This is a methodology for trimming that particular type of tree. Look up terminal versus lateral buds on a tree and how they're supposed to be trimmed to keep them from ever getting too tall and always making them as healthy as possible. You end up building up this thick trunk that can grow lots and lots of buds to bud out and form lots of limbs, and you let them do it over a 20-year period of time, and then you cut them off suddenly so it's forced to grow new buds. You leave some of the limbs on normally, not always, to force it to always stay about the same size so it's manageable, so you don't ever have to replace it. And so that it does the best job possible to grow food or act as an ornamental tree and keep it controlled so that it doesn't short out power lines, or in the case in the area that this was in where there aren't any power lines, just to make it to where it doesn't drop so much crap on top of the roads and make it to where you don't have any big limbs that can drop on a car or hit another building. It's the way you're supposed to trim that particular variety of tree. No, they didn't cut it for 5G because they had no idea they were going to put in 5G that year. Next, they only did part of it. You only see one angle on it, but you can look at it on Street View and turn around. The rest of them weren't cut. They cut them the next year. They're not destroying nature to also let the signals through because all they have to do is move the antennas over on the other side of the fucking road because there's a clear straight shot. No, logic can't happen. We have to have our conspiracy theory memes. Now going back to the other video data, the resonant frequency I brought up, one type of O2 molecule, is 55 terahertz. Now let's see here. Mind control patents were brought up. Hydrogen chloride, carbon monoxide, and nitrous oxide. Let's not talk about the mind control patent, but this was somebody making an assertion he could control people's minds, tried to patent it. He left it abandoned because he wasn't able to prove anything. It was thrown out. But technically it was listed as a patent. It's an applied for patent. The efficacy or functionality of a patent isn't actually tested anymore. Nobody cares. Let's try the frequencies here. Hydrogen chloride's resonant frequency is 86 terahertz. Again, that's not a gigahertz, that's 86,000 gigahertz, excuse me. Carbon monoxide is 64,000 gigahertz, and nitrous oxide is 56,000 gigahertz. So, I mean, we're looking up the other gases that were brought up as being resonant anywhere near this. None of the signals used for 5G or your cell phone are able to cause any of these effects that are being claimed, period, full stop. Next, the higher the frequency goes, the more it's blocked by nature. Shut up and listen. That means also the water molecules in your skin stop these signals from going any deeper than half a millimeter. The more intense it is, the more deep it could go. But again, it's really low wattage. It's like a milliwatt. No, having two 1 milliwatt transmitters 10 feet away from you, when you're at a point where it literally shows less than the intensity of both of them, that doesn't mean they accumulate. That means you're far enough away from them it doesn't do anything. Putting them hundreds of feet apart doesn't amplify it. Homeopathy doesn't work with radio signals. Thank you for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. This is me debunking your bullshit by just simply telling you all you have to do is prove that the radio signals resonate something and show me where it's been proven. You can't. Links below in the description. Bye.